The recital from the Taittiriya Upanishad. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I pranam to all the organizers, Mataji's distinguished guests, speakers, my dear friends, students. My pranams to my spiritual gurus, Swami Atmasthanandaji, who is the president of the Ramakrishna Math and Mission, and the other monks of Ramakrishna Math and Mission. All the ancient scholars, rishis and munis. The recital from the Upanishad is one of the few lines, and you can see that how broad their mind and how depth their experience had, and pronounced above all to Holy Trio, Swamiji, Thakur and Ma. I'm going to warn you that this will be a very non-conventional talk. I'm a scientist by profession, and I have a different way of looking at things. So this was a topic that was assigned to me, same-sightedness. Is it possible? It's one of the very difficult topics, actually. But let me give you the answer straight away. The answer is yes. So you should be cheering, you know. The problem is that the special state actually should be the goal of life, same-sightedness. This is a state. I'll expand more on this. But this should also already start, you know, doing like this. What are you talking about? And the problem is that to evolve to that state is not very easy. So now you can have a frown in your face. The thing is that it is a state that is achievable, but it is not very easy to achieve. And you see that I have marked the word evolve. That's what dynamics of life is about. Evolution. So, because the session of this part was dynamics of Vedanta, so I'm talking about this dynamics of state. Now, state normally has many parameters. I'm not going into the details of these parameters. Whatever state you are, perhaps it's like this, and it can be called the initial state. Now, from this state, I can evolve to many states in many directions. Possibly in this direction, and there are actually infinite number of directions to go. So what happens is that even if I have an initial state, till I set a final state, people get lost. Now the same-sightedness can be thought to be this final state. Now once I have fixed these two states, it's easier for me to determine the direction. But then there can be many paths possible. And often we are tempted by the shortest path, which is a straight line. Now the thing is, this straight line is the shortest path in two dimensions. Those who have little knowledge of maths, you will see that as soon as the curved surface, the straight line is no longer the shortest path. And that is where people make mistake. They're often tempted by the shortest path, and then they land up in problems. Second is, I am not aware of all the dimensions in life. So I might think that this path is the straight line, but it could be this steep, whereas the other path which goes around is a much gradual path. So, even if I take this, I may take more time than somebody who is following this path. Okay. I'll come back to this diagram many more times. So this caution that progress has little to do with speed, much to do with direction. So setting a direction in life is very important. And as I told you right in the beginning, the state of same-sightedness could be one direction. Now, as I was telling you, there are different paths to reach that state. I will try first to go through the path of science, okay? Because I'm a scientist by training, it is easier for me to convince, especially young people. Now, science is a knowledge or a system of knowledge covering general truths or the operation of general laws, especially as obtained and tested through scientific method. And it is usually reproducible. Unless somebody else can reproduce, it is not taken to be the truth, okay? An experiment should be reproducible. Now, let me ask one question. What are we made up of? Okay? So, of course, those who have knowledge of biology, they will tell we are made up of tissues and cells. This is what your red blood corpuscles, everybody has blood and these corpuscles. Now you see, even if we are all so different, at this level, already the difference is gone. Okay? At this level, note that, already the difference is gone. There are no difference between my red blood corpuscles and your red blood corpuscles. Now, let me go a bit further. Inside each cell, we know that there is a chromosome which carries all the information about my history or heredity. And your geneticist will actually study this and tell you all about your characteristics. Now, those who know about DNA, they will tell you this is nothing but chemical. These are deoxyribonucleic acids. Okay? So at this level, you've already come down to chemicals. You are no longer human beings. Right? So I have come to chemistry. I hope you can see from the back. Huh? Let me go a bit further. What are those chemicals made up of? Again, atoms. What are these atoms made up of? Electrons, protons, neutrons. Right? So at this level, we've come to physics already. Now, we can go further actually. You'll see this way, you continue breaking up. This is called reductionism in science. I start breaking up things, okay? And then physicists will tell you, this is taken from the Fermi National Lab website, that all the particles and forces that exist in nature are summed up in this chart. There are only two types of particles. One which makes up matter, and the other one which makes up forces. One is called fermions, the other group is called bosons. And this is named after Sutton Bose, about whom the distinguished speaker was mentioning in his lecture. Now, if I know this, can I tell everything about the human being? No. Now, this is a picture of Henri Poincaré. He was one of the greatest mathematical physicists and mathematicians in France. He said the goal of science should be the search for truth. The search for truth should be the goal of the activities. It is the sole end worthy of them. Okay? Now, what truth did we land up? I asked a very simple question. What are we made up of? You are all that. And there is no difference between me and you and anything else actually. In fact, you will see that there is no difference between living and non-living. Because everything is made up of these things, small, small particles. But does that explain the end of the truth? No. So I come back to this. I was trying with one path, let me try many other paths. Now this is very interesting diagram. Each one of us evolved through one of these paths. And because each one of us are different, our paths are different as well. Now when I am in this path, I cannot judge, and I should not judge somebody else who is following a different path, because I do not know the truth. Right? Now, at this level itself, you should be starting to see everybody as equal and not be judgmental, not criticize, not look down upon. You should start considering everybody as your own. So that's what your science thing was telling me. There is no difference between each of us. Right? Then it tells many more things. Science tells you many more things. This is the visible range of light. And we know that our eye is sensitive only amongst these wavelength of frequencies. But it doesn't mean that there are electromagnetic waves which are beyond. We know that there are many more waves of higher and lower frequencies than this. Our eye can detect only that. Okay? So your science tells, okay, I can see something, but that does not mean that that is the limit of those. There is much beyond. Similarly, your ears, a human ear can take sound between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz, right? A dog is more sensitive. Right? Now, the thing is that we forget that there is something beyond. We try to explain or understand everything by what we see, by what we hear, by the sensory things. But these are limited. And science is telling you, no, you have to go beyond those limits. Right? You have to go beyond those limits. Now, we'll come back more. Another path which especially our forefathers have professed is the path of religion. So this is a dictionary definition. Religion is an organized collection of beliefs, cultural systems, views that relate humanity to an order of existence. Now in Sanskrit, dharma is normally associated to religion, but actually cannot be translated exactly. What I gather, I have very little or limited knowledge of Sanskrit, but I guess that it is much more than what religion, or as such, the Westerners call religion. It encompasses much more than that. Now, in India, the attempt has been made from the earliest times to reach a science of religion and philosophy, for the Hindus did not separate them as two different things. So, you can find it from the quotation of Swami Vivekananda himself. Religion deals with truths of the metaphysical world, just as chemistry and the other natural sciences deal with the truths of the physical world. The book one must read to learn chemistry is the book of nature. The book from which to learn religion is your own mind and heart. The sage is often ignorant of physical science because he reads the wrong book, the book within. And the scientist is too often ignorant of religion because he too reads the wrong book, the book without. So what we have to do, in fact, is the integration of both. Right? So what we see is actually science and religion are not two different things. They are two sides of the same coin. And both try to seek truth. But the methods are different. One by looking at the internal nature, which is the path of religion and philosophy. The other one is the external nature, which is by scientific research and knowledge-based science. And so there is a coherence between these two apparently different domains, science and religion. If somebody is interested, you should actually read the book of Swami Buddhananda, Can One Be Scientific Yet Spiritual? It's a wonderful book actually. The learned speaker before me also mentioned Swami Buddhananda. Now, same-sightedness can be considered as this unity which I was trying to indicate, and it is goal of religion, especially the Indian philosophy or Indian religion. It is a clear and concise statement of the daring claim made by the sages of India from very old times, that they have attained to such unity in the religious field and succeeded in bringing religion to the rank of a perfect and complete science. the methods adopted by them to come to this result were the same as followed by all the sciences of the present day: observation and analysis of the facts of our experience, and a synthetical combination of the results obtained to find out the same facts. And that's why it has lasted for so many millennia. You will see when you read the Vedanta, the Upanishads, the truths which are told, you'll find that they are relevant even in this modern period, right? Because they classified our scriptures in two ways. One was called the Shrutis, and it has these universal truths. Universal because it does not depend on the time, it does not depend on the person, it does not depend on the place. These truths will be true for everybody at all times and everywhere, right? Now, take anything before you, the most material thing. Take one of the most material sciences as chemistry or physics, astronomy or biology. Study it. Push the study forward and forward, and the gross forms will begin to melt and become finer and finer until they come to a point where you are bound to make a tremendous leap from this material things into the immaterial. The gross melts into the fine, physics into metaphysics in every department of knowledge. So even if we are all coming with different backgrounds, maybe I am trained as a physicist, some of you as chemists, some as biologists, some as economists, some as other social scientists. When we push ourselves deeper and deeper, we come to this point. This is the point where you will find there is no difference. You see, as we move forward, we come closer to each other. Okay? Now in school, when you were in class 5, 6, you used to study general science. And then they started differentiating. This is physics, this is chemistry, this is biology. You started separate. When you come to science, modern or higher education, you'll see, I have biochemistry, biophysics, econophysics. I'm combining economics and physics. That's my subject. So there is no difference actually. That difference actually starts melting. And the further I come to this point, the difference goes. When I come to this point, there is no difference between the object and the subject also. Right? This is the point which our ancient rishis and munis thought was the absolute knowledge. Okay? And they used to, this is also called absolute consciousness, and if you translate it in one way, it's called chit. This used to be the point of absolute existence as well, and absolute bliss. So, Sat Chit Ananda. So when a science reaches a unity, it cannot by any means, manner of means, go any further. You cannot go beyond this idea of the absolute, the idea of the one, out of which everything in the universe has formed. And that's the last word which our Vedanta have preached. It's called Tattvamasi. That art thou, thou art. Now remember, I had already come to this in a different way, through a path of science. Okay? You are that. It's in modern English. That's in more classical English, right? Now, what we want to emphasize is that this is the state which should be the goal of life. And that is the state where same-sightedness will be there, it's inbuilt, inherent property. Now, the good thing, as I was saying, that there are many paths, and this is also preached in all our scriptures. So, I think you can recognize this. Ruchi nangvai chitra richu kutila nana pathachusham Nriname go gamya tvamasi payasamarnavaiva. Which means people follow different paths, straight or crooked, according to their temperament, depending on which they consider best or most appropriate, and reach you alone, just as rivers entered the ocean. This is a picture of the Indo-Gangetic plain actually. This is Ganga and its tributaries all flowing into the sea. Now this is what was taught in our ancient scriptures. And that's why, Hinduism is so broad. Tolerance and acceptance is inbuilt in these mantras. You can see same-sightedness is always there. They tell you, they teach you that you look at everybody as your equal, right? And they profess there are many paths to the unity. As I mentioned before, I'm skipping these little details. If anybody is interested, we can come and discuss again during the question and answers. But as I told you before, each individual is unique and different, so that what works for one person may not work for the other. And each one of us is unique because of her nature. And then there are so. Now, going to that, there are many paths. This is how our scriptures again profess that some can follow the path of devotion, which is called bhakti, some through karma, yoga, action, some through knowledge or gyan, some through meditation or raj yoga. Okay? So this is the union with the absolute. So what do I keep in mind? This is from the brochure that Matajis have prepared. You just keep this in mind. The moment I have realized God sitting in the temple of every human body, the moment I stand in reverence before every human being and see God in him, that moment I am free from bondage. Everything that binds vanishes and I am free. So that's the way to achieve that state. Very simple, right? I actually stumbled upon this quotation by chance when I was going through the brochure, and I thought, my topic is actually this. So these are the references if you are interested. I would like to share, this is a photo which has come through WhatsApp this morning, Mount Kanchenjunga, taken by Swami Nitya-Satyananda, who is the head of the Ramakrishna Mission Nivedita Education and Cultural Center. This is the Roy Villa where Sister Nivedita had been with her last 13th October 1911. And it's taken from the garden. Swami Vivekananda had said that it is the most picturesque city in the world. I was fortunate, I was born and brought up. I come from Darjeeling, my home is somewhere here actually. So every morning I used to go to school watching this lovely picture right in front of my eyes. Thank you for your attention.